Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. These are some considerations, some guidance, some advice for young brethren and sistren. That's available for anybody, any brethren, any sister, and any kinfolk, but particularly with young people in mind. So these are shared in somewhat of an order, but not with any extensive methodic order or sequence, I should say. So with that being said, get into it. The first one is whatever it is that you're studying, whatever it is that you're learning, whatever it is that you're doing, activity, job, school, community, religion, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, whatever you're listening to, is it something, and this is culture, this is music, this is TV, this is social media, whatever it is that you're listening to, studying, saying, writing, is it something that you can teach and tell and share with your son? Is it something that you can teach and tell and share with your daughter? Plain and simple. That helps you to recognize the legitimacy or the lack thereof of the things that you're involved in. Again, whether it's studies, whether it's spiritual practice, whether it's work and job. If it's something that you cannot see yourself teaching to your son or teaching to your daughter, then that's something, study, work, whatever it is, friends, family, culture, whatever that is, it's taking you away from your son and your daughter. And if you are able to say, yes, it is something that you can tell, that you can teach, that you can share with your son or daughter, then it's bringing you closer to your son and daughter. So, that's that. Second joint, the first deal that you make in life, like if you about to get a job, if you about to make it to the league, if you about to get that sponsorship, whatever, that promo, whatever, even if for a modest amount, don't go for money, don't settle for money. Get land, get building, get someplace where you can live and establish foundation and build your house, build your home. And if it's not enough for that, then hold off. It's not worth it. Now, that might be easier said than done in a lot of circumstances, but it's beneficial, particularly for people who are in that stage of negotiation. Even a job. Don't worry about no salary. Get land, get a house, get a foundation. Part of that is recognizing that the whole payment system, the weekly, monthly payments kind of methodology, it's modern day slavery. It's a way of being captivated, not necessarily just by the employer or whoever's providing the actual paycheck, but by all the conditions that surround that. We can talk about taxes, but even beyond that, slavery, for lack of a better word, and keep this joint brief. So, in your first deal, foundation, all the deals from that, building from that foundation. And when that foundation is solid, that can support yourself, that can support your fam, and your crew. Then work on further enterprise, economics, because when kinfolk have land, you have a decision-making ability about what you do with that land: residence, commerce, education, community, and otherwise. So that's consideration. All right. Next joint is do work during daylight time, and in the nighttime when the soleil is beyond the horizon and before it's above the horizon. Allow that to be the time for music and culture, storytelling. The daytime being the industrious hours, the labor hours, the work hours, and to devote the mindset to that type of activity. And then when the night hits, let that be the mindset of culture, music, conversation, reasoning, dance, storytelling, film, a creative element. And then also, similarly along those lines, it's beneficial to reserve the eating patterns primarily during the daylight hours as well. I can be called out in terms of being the best example or the worst example of that, but there's a knowledge of it's facts, it's truth, it's healthy. You can look, you can study. That's what the ancients teach us. So, that being said, now we're going into another. This is a heavy one right here. Masturbation is rape. So we recognize that when a man violates a woman in that experience of rape, it's terrible, horrendous atrocity, the violation of a woman's body, and that's a primary way in which the man is described as raping a woman. Now, in the flip side of that, the way a woman rapes a man is not by the body; it's by the mind. It's through temptation, seduction, getting into his head and influencing accordingly. So it's not immediately and directly a physical violation. It is a mental violation, and it's a distraction. It's a confusion. It's a taking away from his priorities, even from his beliefs, his family, his relationships, a preoccupation, and otherwise through the provision or the projection, the display of her physical beauty and and all her wiles. That's how a woman rapes a man, getting into his head, and it's serious. Masturbation is only a consequence, a symptom of that rape. But if you just look at the physicality of it, when we recognize that the life force of a man is his seed, and how significant and how powerful that is, for him to expend that seed in a futile way is just shows so much evidence of that being harmful, and what precipitates that harmfulness essentially is his confusion and distraction from the seduction of a woman. So that's not to take away the onus upon himself. He has responsibility, but it's a matter of recognizing what the power that a woman has, and how that power is harmful in many respects when it's utilized in a harmful way. Masturbation is rape. So we look at pornography. No, let me put that otherwise. I'm going to pause on that one. We consider pornography along those lines. Yes, it's an exploitation of women. It's also an exploitation of men as well. So public displays, and additionally women being provocative in terms of displaying sexual prowess, and additionally that's sexual exploitation against men, again, within the minds of men, against the minds of men. So it's necessary for kinfolk to recognize that and respond to that accordingly, with modesty, with compassion, with honesty. So it's plain and simple, and that's shared for brethren who experience those challenges. It's also shared for sistren to be aware of what sistren are doing, to be knowledgeable about that. If you see a boy 7-8 years old watching pornography, or seeing a woman displaying her sexuality in a very provocative way, it's easier to see that wrongfulness within that, and the harmfulness within that. But the same thing applies to a grown man. It's the same thing, and people. Well, I'm not going to go into the whole rationale and reasoning explanation, and masturbation is rape, plain and simple. Let that speak for itself. Next joint is individual liberty is optimized via distance from the grid. So the further, when people talk about so much about freedom, personal freedom, this and the other, personal freedom is only genuinely maximized, optimized through a distance from relying upon the grid. So when one is further free of electricity, further free of mobile phone, further free from internet connection, further free from money, then a person is genuinely free, increasingly genuinely free. When people are involved in any of those things, people are playing somebody else's game. That's just facts. It's somebody else's game. People don't control all those different elements. It's relying upon, and it's being subjected to the ways and the wills of other people. So when somebody wants an increasing amount of freedom, get some distance from those other ways. Um, so it's not luxury, but it is freedom. So that's just facts. Um, okay, on a similar note, along a combination of these lines, the internet is a seductress woman trained to enslave you. So the basic joint is this: when we talk about this phenomena of the internet, and additionally, um, to recognize that it's an energy, it's a power, it's a sentience. Um, there's tremendous benefit that is gleaned from it, and there are tremendous harms that are caused through it as well. So, um, to try to better like just understand this phenomena of the internet and further after over a generation of having this available widely amongst humanity on this earth civilization, to recognize the internet particularly as a woman, a seductress woman, and this is particularly for men, but we can reason about how it applies for women particularly and specifically, and in any ways distinctly, but the internet for men is a seductress woman, and it's not just a matter of all just about pornography and all those type of algorithms that show the bathing suits and everything, but just the entirety of it. It's alluring, and it's an energy, and it's a continual temptation, and it's a continual distraction, and there's an intentionality with that, and it's through that distraction additionally that there's the experience of enslavement. So if it's seen as just like an inanimate device of a computer, then it seems comparatively innocuous, and a man has to struggle with his ego about the influence of it. But if a man sees this as a human being, as a woman particularly, and again, this is love and peace to women. It's not a derogatory thing about women. It's a matter of recognizing how men are overpowered by a phenomenon that men do not understand, like a man being hi, all right, like a man is overpowered by a woman because he will never fully understand her. So the internet is similar to this, and again, it's also we can look at the internet being utilized as a surrogate wife, and otherwise, particularly through those means that I just mentioned, pornography and otherwise. So, and there is an energy. There's an energy transfer. It's a cipher, but it's also an energy. There's stimulation. There's an energy exchange just when a man is looking at a screen and looking at even just a football match or a history lesson or whatever else. There's an energy exchange, and when the aggregate with all the things that a man does with the internet is put together into a single factor or whatever, that's it's a seductive woman. And so for him, it's beneficial for him to perceive it in such a way, whilst we collectively, whilst I and I continue to work on reasoning and understanding this phenomenon. And this is all Freudian and further. But in the meanwhile, again, the internet is a seductress woman, um, and to be respectful of that, to recognize it's an influence and a power beyond a man's full understanding, and thus to be modest and to know how to keep it a safe distance when necessary. So that's another consideration. Further on, I'm almost done with this joint. Another advice is to live in earshot of your fam and your crew. So wherever kinfolk are living at this moment, it's beneficial to migrate towards each other, to be within immediate physical proximity of each other for social relationship, regularity, trust, communication, safety, culture, all that. Yo, serious. It helps. It helps. It helps. So that's just making ways of doing it. So the best way to show that is to live it. That's what we're working on our best to do at this moment. One other one, as we wrap this joint up, is to drink from your natural water wells. So wherever the water is flowing naturally amidst you, to drink from that. And if it's impossible at this moment, work on making it possible. That's again the way of optimizing one's comprehensive health: physical, mental, spirit, heart. It's by drinking the natural flowing water around you. So for the young kindred particularly, who God willing are here for the next 2, 3, 4, and further generations, it's a project to look at on how to make that water drinkable, increasingly drinkable. Stages, where it is at this moment, and how it can be cleaned optimally at this very moment, even like within a year. What's the cleanest it can possibly be within a year? How to keep it that way? How to get it further cleaned? And the stages of doing that, obviously, that requires cooperation from particularly from people who live upstream. It requires cooperation from people who live nearby in terms of the devices that are utilized, whether it's lawnmower devices with gasoline or whether it's uh, vehicles with petrol, and pesticides and herbicides and all these other things, to be further mindful and disciplined of what's introduced into the immediate environment that affects the water. And then when that's done over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, then start drinking from the water. See how much that water can be treated to be actually drinkable. And so even with severely treated water, there it is. You're drinking the water that flows naturally by you. And then again, making further steps so that less and less treatment is necessary. Collecting water, and drinking collected water, and building that. But again, that's anchoring, that's stability, that's roots, that's health, that's healing. That's what's up. We give thanks and praise to the Most High, and blessed love and peace.